Good morning. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Dominica. Hello, world. Welcome to this another edition of the Cooperative Voice, a program which highlights the role of the cooperative movement in Dominica. And it's made possible with a kind complement of the Dominica Cooperative Societies League Limited in collaboration with the credit unions of Dominica and the Mlaja Mobile Wallet, Dominica's very own and first mobile wallet providing you great financial technology and innovative solutions. In today's program, we'll be focusing on the cooperatives and we'll turn our attention this week to the role of the Supervisory and Compliance Committee. Last week, we dealt with the Credit Committee. This week, we'll be focusing on the Supervisory and Compliance Committee. So, we'll be taking a very short break, and when we return, we'll be getting right into the nitty gritties.
Send me money. Receive money. Send me money. No more hassle. M l'argent. Send me money. Send me money. Receive money. Receive money. M l'argent. It's safe and secure. M l'argent. You want to send your money to friends and family. No more standing in line. M l'argent. It's a new digital financial service brought to you by the Dominica Credit Union Movement. Introduces a new wallet solution, M l'argent. Top up friends, pay bills, make shopping easy, extra secure. Sign up is absolutely free. M l'argent. You want to send your money to friends and family. No more standing in line. No more M l'argent. Download the M l'argent app today. See your credit union for more details. M l'argent, your mobile payment solution. M l'argent.
All right, again, welcome back to this another edition of the Cooperative Voice program. I'm your host, Phoenix Belfield, and today we'll be talking a little bit about the role of the Supervisory and Compliance Committee. Now, our time is not a lot here today, so I'm going to delve right into it. We're going to break it down in the nuts and bolts. We're going to talk about what is required under the Act, and then we're going to get into the specifics of the responsibilities of the Supervisory and Compliance Committee. Now, the first thing you want to know as a member of the Supervisory and Compliance Committee are the appropriate credit union regulations that govern the society. And so that's the Cooperative Societies Act of the Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the regulations, the SROs, the society's bylaws. Now, every credit union has a specific bylaw. And there are other laws governing the operations of the credit union. So, for example, you have the AML-CFT, which is referred to as the Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Financing of Terrorism. So these are the appropriate legislation. There are some other legislations that also guides the specific actions and operations of the credit union that you will need to familiarize yourself with. Okay, so let's get into the Act. The first thing we're going to look at, it is what it says under the Act. Now, under Section 66(1) of the Act, it says 1, the Supervisory Compliance Committee shall A, keep minutes of the meeting, B, make a cause to be made not less than twice in the period before the next annual general meeting of the Society, an examination of the books and documents of the Society, which shall include on the inspection of the securities, cash accounts, and all records relating to loans and purchases and sales. C, make or cause to be made once in the period before the end of the next annual general meeting a comparison between the passbooks and the statement of account of a random sample of at least 10% of all of the members of the cooperative society and the appropriate records of the cooperative society. Section 66 continues. 1D, ascertain that all actions and decisions of the board, committees, management, and staff relating to the affairs of the cooperative society are in accordance with this Act, the regulations, the bylaws, and the approved standards and policies of the cooperative society. And Section 66E says, submit a written report on the results of the examination and inquiries under this section to the board, and the management of the cooperative society within 7 days of each meeting of the Supervisory Compliance Committee. So once you've had your meeting, within 7 days, you have to submit a report of that meeting to the board of directors. And then 66(1)(f) says, submit a written report on the results of its examination and inquiries under this section to the next annual general meeting, or if it thinks fit, to a special general meeting of the cooperative society. So those are the general requirements under the Act for the society. Now, if you look in the society's bylaws, you will see specific or additional responsibilities for the Supervisory and Compliance Committee. So essentially, what is the purpose of the committee? And these are just best practices. The Supervisory Committee effectively supports the work of the Board of Directors in fulfillment of its oversight responsibility for the following. So one, we look at integrity of financial reporting, compliance with legal and regulatory requirements, supervising or supervision of external auditors, oversight of the internal audit functions, evaluation of internal control and risk management, and also any other duties that are prescribed under the Act, the bylaws, and that is requested by the Board of Directors. Now, let's get into some specifics about the committee's work. First thing, the qualifications. No, you do not have to have a master's degree or a PhD. These are some of the basic or the fundamental requirements that are required for you to be able to properly do your job as a committee member. So the committee member shall ensure that they maintain the competencies necessary to ensure that the committee's particular fiduciary responsibility or functions can be effectively executed. So all of the committee members should have at least or substantially all of the following competencies. One, you must have the ability to understand and analyze financial statements of the credit union. You must have an understanding of the application of general accounting or accepted accounting principles with respect to such financial statement. Note that you're not required to be an auditor, but you must have the basic understanding as to what are the requirements. Thirdly, you must have some level of experience in reviewing or assessing risk management processes and internal controls within an organization. And fourthly, you must have an understanding of the supervisory committee's function. A lot of times, it is the absence of the latter that leads to an overriding of the functions and the actions of the committee. Now, this is not to say that if you don't have these, you cannot acquire them. They are training that are provided by the credit union and by your credit union league to help you along the way. So you're not just bumped into the role of Supervisory Compliance Committee and expect to know everything, but you're supposed to have a basic understanding as to some of the functions. And at the upcoming AGMs, we'll be encouraging the credit unions to circulate the job descriptions for the committees. In fact, we'll be posting it on our league's Facebook page as well, the job descriptions for the supervisory board and credit, so you know beforehand what is expected of you. Okay? Now let's get into 5 specific duties of the committee. 1 is financial reporting, 2, compliance, 3, independent external audit, 4, internal audit, and 5, internal control and operational risk management. So let's look at the first one, which is under financial reporting. Well, on the financial reporting, the committee is expected to do the following. 1, review the integrity of the credit union's financial reporting processes and results. Okay, so you all of the internal processes of the credit union, you're expected to review and make comments on these. 2, critical management estimates, judgments, complex or unusual transactions underlying the financial statement. So when you would have done your impromptu visits and control and cash counts and so forth, anything that seems awry or amiss, you will make note of it and then you'll put it down for action, subsequent actions. Any significant changes in the accounting principles, practice, standards, or policies, you're expected to have a look at these. You're supposed to review all of the policies of the credit union for adequacy. So if you find that there's a gap in a particular policy, the committee can review these and make submissions to the board of directors with its recommendation. And then you also want to Review the effect of a regulatory or accounting initiative as well as off-balance sheet structures of the financial statements. And then fifthly, review and discuss the results of the annual audit with management and external auditor. So you may have some changes, like for example, most of the credit unions did some changes from IAS 39 to IFRS 9, and these would have resulted in change in how some of the accounting principles are applied to the business of the credit union. You're also to be aware, as we say in Creole, akuya. You're supposed to be aware of that. Let's look at the next function, compliance, which is the second core function. One, you need to review the effectiveness of the system for monitoring compliance with laws and regulation, as well as the results of management's investigations and follow-up of any instances of non-compliance. If there's an issue of non-compliance, you're supposed to conduct the investigation in a proper and professional manner and to make notes of these instances and provide a report into the board of directors. You're also to review the findings of any examination of regulatory agencies or auditors or any auditor observations. So any findings, you're also to conduct your own supplementary examination to see where there are gaps and where the reporting has to be made. Thirdly, meet if needed with outside counsel to provide any matters that may have a material impact on the safety and soundness. Now, there's a caveat here. Whilst it is within the purview of the committee to solicit or seek outside counsel, these must be approved by the board of directors according to the law. All right. So it is not for the committee to just go and hire somebody from overseas or somewhere to do an examination and then tell the board pay this bill. It has to be approved by the board. So there are checks and balances, even with a checker and balancer of the compliance responsibility of the credit union. Fourthly, obtain regular updates from the management and the compliance officer or the equivalent regarding compliance matters, how compliance is being monitored and follow up and so forth. So you would have meetings with the compliance officers to find out what are some of the issues that they're attending to and where there are gaps and what needs to be done, and follow up on what appropriate actions are being taken by management. Ensure that fraud-related policies are acknowledged for all employees annually. So if there's any instances of fraud, you're expected to investigate it and make your appropriate reporting as prescribed by the law. Review the effectiveness of the process for which employees may submit confidential and anonymous concerns for investigations and corrections annually. So if you have a whistleblowing policy or what have you, you will review those to ensure that it's up to date. Review all regulatory guidelines or complaints received by the credit union, investigate the concerns, and prepare a written report to the board within 7 days of that meeting. So, for example, we know that the regulator, in this case, which is the FSU, may submit regular guidelines to the credit unions from time to time on best practices and overall regarding its mandate. Your duty in this case would be to follow up on those guidelines and to see the extent to which they're being implemented and what are the gaps associated with that. So that is as it relates to the compliance mandate. I will be sharing all of these slides with your credit union, and so that you can also get a copy of it and you can familiarize yourself with them. Independent external audit. So the society normally hires an independent auditor. Your duty in this case would be liaise with this person to ensure, review the performance of the auditor, review the scope of the audit and their approach, review the performance with any difficulty or disputes that may be arising from the audit, present written results to the external auditor to the board of directors. So those assessments, you will provide a response to your board of directors. Ensure that there's rotation of the lead partner and audit partners every 3 years. So our regulation requires every 3 years for there to be a change. However, there can be a change before, depending on the performance of that audit, all right, or that auditing firm. Consider whether there should be a rotation of the external auditing firm, and that's what I referred to earlier. So you may, before that time, depending on the functions of that external auditing firm, you may recommend to the board that there be a rotation. You also have to confirm that the external audit firm does not provide consulting or other services to the credit union that impair its independence. So you want to ensure that there's independence of the audit of the auditing firm to the credit union. All right. On the fourth side, we look at the internal audit. So there's also a component of your responsibility as it relates to internal audit. Now, some credit unions, particularly the large ones, may have internal audit department. Some of them may just have an internal auditor. Some of them may not, depending on the size. However, this also has a bearing on your responsibility as the Supervisory and Compliance Committee. So you would normally review the overall scope of effectiveness and organizational structure for the internal audit function. You'd review if there's an internal audit plan for the credit unions as it relates to the business objective and risk management. You will review that as well. You'll ensure that the internal audit department or officer also has direct access to the supervisory committee, and you can meet periodically with that person to discuss some of the concerns. And you are, as always, expected to provide a periodic update to your board of directors. And let's look at the duty number 5, which is the internal controls and operation risk management. So a couple of things that I need you to understand as it relates to internal control and operation risk management. The committee is expected to review the effectiveness of the credit unit's internal controls and operation risk management. And this is not limited to, this is just some of the core areas that are usually identified. So this is not an exhaustive list. So 1, you want to look at operational efficiency. 2, the control environment and governance, including information technology security. 3, financial reporting, we spoke about that earlier, but this includes the scope of internal and external audit reviews of the internal control. So you review the internal control mechanisms of the credit union or of the society. You also look at the instances of compliance with the laws and the regulations to ensure that all of the internal controls and operational management subscribe to what is required under the law and the regulation. And then you process of the material risks and the steps taken by management to manage those risks. Okay, so these are as it relates to the internal control and operational management. There's one thing that I would want the committee to understand, that it is not the responsibility of the committee to make operating decisions. And we've had instances, not only locally, regionally, to ensure that the committee understands this. The Supervisory Compliance Committee is not the board of directors. You're not responsible for the management of the affairs of the society. You're responsible for the oversight of the management. So you, whilst the board provides management of the society, your responsibility is to ensure that the board's plans and policies are reasonable and they protect the safety and soundness of the institutions. That is why you're also expected to have attend a board meeting where you audit the board meeting, see the conduct of a meeting, and provide a review to that board. So what we call a board performance review. And this board performance review is not a meeting where you just meet with the board and tell them about everything that's going wrong or everything that's going right. This is pretty much like a performance appraisal as you would for a normal member of staff. So you meet with the board and you give them an outline as to what are some of the criteria you'll be assessing for the board. And then you provide the board. Ideally, we would recommend that the committee provides a template to the board of directors and say, do a self-assessment. And then the committee would meet with the board and conduct its own assessment and then discuss it. So it does similar to what you would do for a member of staff, and then you would indicate areas for improvement. All right. So this is in addition to all of the fiduciary duties that you have as a member of the Supervisory and Compliance Committee. All right. So these are some of the basic responsibility for the roles and responsibility of the Supervisory and Compliance Committee. I know we're almost out, we're long out of time, but I'm going to present these slides and the job descriptions of all of the committees to your respective credit unions. So if you're interested in serving, contact your local credit union, submit your CV, submit a letter of interest. Let your credit union know that you would want to serve on the governance of the credit union and you would want to provide that level of service and support to your credit union. Again, that's it for me, folks. Thank you for those who've stayed with the broadcast, those who continue to contribute and support the credit union movement. We thank you enormously. Dominica World, good morning.
Send me money. Send me money. Receive money. Receive money. Send me money. No more hassle. M l'argent. Send me money. Send me money. Receive money. Receive money. M l'argent. It's safe and secure. M l'argent. You want to send your money to friends and family. No more standing in line. M l'argent. It's a new digital financial service brought to you by the Dominica Credit Union Movement. Introduces a new wallet solution, M l'argent. Top up friends, pay bills, make shopping easy, extra secure. Sign up is absolutely free. M l'argent. You want to send your money to friends and family. No more standing in line. No more M l'argent. Download the M l'argent app today. See your credit union for more details. M l'argent, your mobile payment solution. M l'argent.
Want to earn some money with friends and family. M l'argent, refer and earn. Yes, it pays to share. Refer friends and family members. Receive 50 points each and redeem it for l'argent shesh. Haven't you referred a friend yet? M l'argent. Terms and conditions apply. You want to earn some money with friends and family. You want to earn some money with friends and family.